These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
We had a lot of drives to the hoop tonight. 24 assists of 46 buckets, where normally our percentage is a lot higher than that. But I thought we created a lot of open shots. If those go down, then those are assisted buckets. So, that'll come. But in general, we looked organized. We looked like we had purpose, and that's what we were trying to do tonight.
We looked organized, and we looked like we had purpose. Is that what he said?
I love that guy.
It's a good compliment. It's just kind of
he literally reminds me so much of Judd, Chris Finch. He it's those mannerisms that I don't know, but like just even him looking down here.
We had a lot of drives to the.
That's Judd to me.
You guys have the same glasses.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, and we are. I think we are like days apart in birth. Because he was born in I think he might be a few days younger than me.
Wow!
But we basically were born like days apart.
Do you think after looking at the stat sheet, he also takes off the glasses once he's done reading and makes his point too?
I think if he's upset, he might.
When he's about to make a point, he's disappointed at halftime with the effort, and he looks at the stat sheet, then takes his glasses off.
Yep, I think he does that.
Deep sigh, and then unleashes fury on the team.
Yeah, I think he's more calm than I am, probably. But yes, there are definitely some characteristics that I can see between him and myself.
I'm glad Declan brought that up. Now I'm only going to see Chris Finch as like Bizarro Judd and vice versa.
I think
these two guys went on two different life paths. One went through coaching in Germany and different places and was in love with basketball. The other guy mostly just complained about Minnesota sports teams until he got paid for it. And
he's definitely more gray, I think. I'm gray. Like, I've got the gray, but he's got more gray. But then again, he's a coach, so he should.
Yeah. Watching this team play in the third quarter will make you gray. But they have won 2 of their first 3 games. Let's get into some statements here, as we do on Mondays on Mackey and Judd. Packer vent line later as well. But let's start with you, Judd. What's your Judd Finch? What's your first Timberwolves statement?
Now, I think what I'm going to talk about here is my statement is this. Ant was right, and shame on anyone who was like, "What? He's complaining." So after the loss to the Jazz on Friday, Ant, in a very candid, we ask for guys to give candid assessments, responses, right? Jace Frederick of the Pioneer Press asked Ant about something, and his exact quote was, "The smaller we go, the better it is for me." And the immediate pushback I saw was, "Well, that's not going to be possible, and what's wrong, and blah blah blah." And his response, which by the way was not defensive, it wasn't like mad. He basically said, "It's on me to make this work." But his response and then his subsequent performance on Sunday at OKC is why I like him. Because he's not complaining. I mean, we are 3 games in, and I am already done with Cat complaining and moping around and how did I not get, I can't take it. I've reached my breaking point there. But Ant, I love it because he is being honest. He is assessing things. And he's not saying Chris Finch has to figure this out. He's saying it's on us and me to make this work. I thought the response was great. And it's why I think as this kid matures, he becomes more and more of the guy that I think the team can look to as an honest captain type. Like, he screws up. He screwed up bad off the court. But you know what? It feels like he owns things. And again, this is something that he owned. I loved it. And then most importantly, came back with a really strong game against the Thunder on Sunday.
Yeah, it is a really interesting thing, though, because he's giving you this, and it wasn't to throw like a wrench into the team or anything like that. Because the next question that I think it was Jace that asked the follow-up in the locker room was, well, how do you reconcile the fact that you like to play with smaller lineups with, I don't know, the 2 guys that are 7 feet tall that are making $100 million combined?
Right.
And he said, he got a big smile on his face. He said, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But you watch the way that Ant operated with that small lineup. I mean, the Wolves put that game on ice with Gobert, Towns, and D'Lo on the bench.
Yes.
Now, they also have had some really good stretches with those guys or combinations of those guys on the court. But I think it's I look at this as more of a positive that, okay, you can rest these big guys or you can go to sort of your second unit plus Ant and put a game on ice. Now, that was an Oklahoma City team without its best player. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was not playing last night. So, yeah, it's a team that you should have beat by 15 or 20 points. And, so, but I actually take it as, they're working through this. Anthony Edwards is off to a really good start, at least the last couple games. He's efficient offensively, and he will figure out a way to do that with the two centers on the court as well. Or maybe he has to pick and choose his spots when those guys are off the court to go on these runs. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Can I say this too and this is the difference between Ant and Cat, and I think it's a very important distinction, and we got an example of this on Friday. With Cat, he defaults to, well, I guess I have to do more. I have to, like, his frustration manifests itself in almost feeling sorry for himself. Well, I'm not doing a good enough job. It's just on me. And, since his first year, it's never really seemed sincere, right? Like, it's always, dude, you're just talking to talk. With what Kat said on Friday, I take that and say he's exactly right, and he knows it. And when he says it's on me to fix it or to be a better player, he means it genuinely. Like, I feel like Kat's just, like, deflecting it away, and he doesn't really, he's telling us what we want to hear, but he doesn't mean it. With Ant, I feel like it comes from a place of, no, I need to address this. And the words might be the same at times, but when you listen to them and see what they do in their next games, there's such a big difference. That's why I like Ant.
Yeah, Cat, and I'm going to give Cat, his personality is what it is. I'm going to give his game a chance to just get through the first few weeks here because he was way behind training camp. He was in the hospital. He's only shooting like 36% to start the year here, and he's not really knocking down threes. In terms of the personality dynamics, I do see that difference too. And some people, I'll just pull back the curtain here. I see comments on the Score North YouTube channel and on Twitter ripping us for, well, you guys, the first time Cat sneezes wrong, you spend 20 minutes ranting about him. But Ant goes 4 for 17 and puts up a bunch of bad shots in the first game, and you guys give him a free pass. Yes, we are much harder on Cat than Ant, but I think there's a lot of really good process and a lot of really good things about his personality, and he's still kind of in growth mode at age 21. So is it unfair? I'm giving a 21-year-old a little bit of a pass to learn as he goes. A 26-year-old Supermax player deserves less of a pass.
Yep.
That's where I'm coming from when it comes to the criticism discrepancy, if you will. My first statement here, Rudy Gobert has been incredible and as advertised in the first 3 games. The numbers alone speak for themselves, right? 16 points, 18 rebounds, only 2 fouls per game, even though he's playing 32 minutes. Like, the way that this guy defends without fouling, he's averaging 6.5 offensive rebounds per game so far. Now, his shooting percentage is a measly 62%. He's taking 4 more shots per game than he did last year. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of smooths itself out. But he's been everything that you thought he was going to be, just cleaning up the glass. I think the rest of the team is trying to figure out sort of how to play around him defensively and how to throw lobs to him and the timing of everything. But some really good signs, and the fact that you can just kind of plop him in there and he's just going to grab rebounds and alter shots and stuff. You can work around there's a lot of other defensive flaws that need to be fixed. He's not the flaw.
Right.
The rest, and I think the rest of it will start to iron itself out.
Yeah.
What just happened? What just happened?
That was very odd. I was just going to wait for Dexis, and then we could talk. If that's my fault, I apologize there.
Whose fault was that awkward silence?
I was allowing it to breathe.
It's not my fault. I stopped talking.
No, you stopped talking. No. It's between Dex and I. You know what it wasn't? It's not fault. It's not fault. That's not the right word. I think it was miscommunication. And
Self-scout week.
Yeah, because Dex thought I was going to chime in, and I was just going to let Dex go.
Why didn't you chime in, by the way?
because I was going to let Dex make his next statement, and then we could have more of a broad view Wolves discussion. But I will take the blame here. Like, that's fine.
It's
know
like
what
there's
I
like
have
a
to
wide
correct.
open guy in the corner
Yep.
for 3, and we're like, wait a second, I
Yeah,
had to paint.
no,
okay.
no, it's a very
I had the
weird.
guy in the wing.
It was very weird, but I celebrate it. I celebrate it because you know what this does? This gives us an opportunity, easily correctable, to look at the film and figure out what went wrong. But I threw the pick. I will take all the blame.
It looked like
That's
Dex,
like
like you were waiting for Judd to jump in.
Yeah.
Well, he
That's
totally
what it
was.
looked like to me.
I'm taking the blame here. Stella,
This
give
is
me
like
a
that
beer.
play
I
in
need a
semi-pro
beer.
when Will
Give me
Ferrell's throwing
Sterling.
it back and forth. Like, only if you want it. 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 It was literally me and Judd back there, and I was
Yep.
like, I don't want the ball, but you can take
I
the shot if you
apologize,
want
Dex.
it.
I
No, it's okay.
apologize.
That was hilarious.
Judd being too unselfish right
Come on.
there.
Yeah, we get back. Go look at the glasses. Put them on. Get the stat sheet on. Let's go. My statement from watching some Wolves ball over the last few days throughout the start of the season is Jaylen Nowell is this team's X factor. So Jaylen Nowell,
Talk dirty
again,
to me.
great performance off the bench for Jaylen Nowell so far this season. So in 3 games, he's been playing about 20 minutes a game. He's averaging 15 points. He's a great energy guy. He seems like a much more effective version of what Malik Beasley should be, right? And I know Bees actually had a pretty good game for the Jazz on Friday against his former team. But Beasley had a habit of being just kind of a chucker out there. He was going to go out and try to get his shots. Nowell, there is a lot more to his game. He can take it to the rack. He can absolutely hit some shots too when it's needed. And you need a good energy guy like this off the bench. And so far, he's been a positive too when he's on it. And that's kind of all you can really ask for from a 6-man. Can you come out there and can you be a plus player? You know, you can get your stats like Malik Beasley, but can you go out there and actually still facilitate the offense, get enough points, not be a liability on defense? And I get why that dude also wants to go to unrestricted free agency. I know Dukes talked about with us last week. Shams had a note in The Athletic this morning as well that he wants to go to unrestricted free agency. He might actually get a payday. But I think this dude is an X factor off the bench for the Wolves. They really haven't had a guy like this that can come off for them, that's reliable, and isn't a complete liability either on defense. He's a great player to watch.
He's so much fun. He got a little squirrely last night. He a couple heat check shots, and he shot like 30% or something last night. But to know that you could just bring a guy in, just instant offense, just heat it up for 2 minutes, and boom, like you got a meal. It's awesome. And I agree, like the fact that you're swapping out largely Malik Beasley minutes for Jaylen Nowell, you get this much more well-rounded, self-aware offensive player, and I think just a more effective offensive player too. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think Beasley didn't know his role, and I think was pissed off that he wasn't starting. And so he didn't see himself, like Jaylen seems to know his role. He might take some bad shots, but he's not trying to say, okay, it's my time to play. I got to fill up the box score, right? So, like, I think there's a big difference, especially on a good team, with a guy that gets what the chemistry is supposed to be, as opposed to a guy who's trying to get the most that he possibly can because he knows that he's only going to be playing for X amount of time.
Yeah, the other guy, Jaden McDaniels too, who's just been he's such a nondescript personality and player in some ways, but then you look up and it's like, oh, he's got a handful of steals and he's got some rebounds. Oh, he went to the free throw line a bunch of times tonight, and his game has just been on point the first 3 games as well. So they've got these little like peripheral players that are either coming off the bench or it's the 5th guy in the starting lineup in Jaden McDaniels. I mean, Taurean Prince is off to a nice. They legitimately have a deep lineup that has multiple different components to it, and it's been on display. Okay, on the bad side of things, on the defense, I don't have this stat for last night's game, but Jace Frederick has it for the first 2. The Timberwolves in the opener. So here's my statement. You got to stop giving up wide open shots. All right, the first game, the Wolves gave up 47 wide open shots according to NBA stats. 47 wide open shots. The next highest total across the entire league that night was 27.
Wow.
So it was a disaster. And then the second game against Utah, it was better, but it was still the worst in the league. They gave up 33 wide open shots against Utah, most in the league. So I believe they've given up the most wide open shots defensively. And this is where smarter people that study NBA film will have to chime in. How fixable is this? If you've got Cat and Gobert on the court at the same time, is it just inevitable that you're going to get put in the spin cycle and teams are going to get open looks? Or is it just hey, once they keep working on their communication and honing on-ball defense and things like that, I don't know what to make of this after a few games, but I'm willing to give them a few weeks to iron it out. Not a good sign, though.
Is there a stat that assesses who gives up the shots? Like who ideally would have been covering the player? I'd be curious.
But it's
to know.
so hard because there's rotations, and it's hard to say like this guy was at fault for this.
Right.
You know?
I was curious if that was attempted to be tracked because of this one. I mean, there is, and this is not me ripping him, okay? But on Cat, who, by the way, I will rip, but on Cat, on the court right now, it is clear he is trying to adjust. Like this role for a guy who basically didn't have camp, and I mean, I think if he had camp, it's still a major adjustment because he's sharing the floor more now. He's being asked to do things that that fours are. A little basketball for you instead of the 5.
Football.
So, like, just defensively,
you're fishing for it.
Just defensively, thank you. Defensively, I think that there is definitely going to be a period of adjustment here for Cat alone, and on both sides too. But it's a little bit difficult. At
That's why I said this after the first game. I'll say it after pretty much every game. People need to just calm down and stop freaking out if it doesn't look. Oh my God! Look at how terrible they look in the third quarter. Yes.
The second
this is
game.
not anywhere near the finished product that it will be. And by the way, the Jazz in that second game, the Jazz, a lot of us probably just dismissed them after they traded their 2 best players, but they've put together a roster of professional players. I mean, Kelly Olynyk is a professional player. Rudy Gay is a professional basketball player. Some of the guys they got back from the wall, Jared Vanderbilt is a very good basketball player.
Vando can play. Yes, exactly.
So they aren't running out a bunch of slappies like a few other teams in the NBA are. They have some good, solid players, and they were playing with energy. I'm not excusing the Wolves should have beat the Jazz, but that Jazz team also, half the roster felt offended by the trade and by the slights on social media and stuff. So that was like kind of their NBA Finals. Like that was Malik Beasley's NBA Finals in that game. Okay?
Oh, he was fired up.
Yeah.
Big time.
The Rudy Gobert wasn't offended that the Jazz traded him. He wasn't looking to get the Jazz in that game. So just these are total excuses for a loss that shouldn't have happened, but I'm willing to give this team some time.
Yeah, but it is game 2. Like, I just can't get worked up about a loss in game 2 unless you just checked out completely, which they I don't think did. My next statement is this, because I think I'm next now. I'm not sure. But
I don't even remember.
Next.
Yeah,
I think you went. I think you took my statement. Now I'm going to take
That's
Declan's statement. Blah blah blah.
Okay.
Chris Finch, who, by the way, will turn 53 on November 6th. 7 days after that, I will. So he's basically one in the same with me. So listen to me. Naz needs to play. Naz Reid, and I'm not saying he has to play a ton, but last night, and he was a DNP-CD, a little basketball for you, in game 1. DNP-CD ain't good. Naz Reid last night.
Football.
13 minutes, 5 for 7 from the floor, 2 of 4 from three-point range, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. He took up 4 fouls, which is fine, 14 points. In the right role, and I've never been a fan of Naz playing too much, which, unless guys get hurt now, should not be a problem this season. But in the right role, brought in at the right time with the right players, Naz Reid is not a guy who should be watching the entire game from the bench. And I think we saw evidence of just how much that guy can contribute in the correct role in last night's win.
Yeah, he does have, every once in a while, he'll have just like a Naz Reid game on the bad side where he's just like turning the ball over and can't make a shot. But when he's on his game in the right matchups, he is hard to handle. And the fact that you can just kind of put him out there and he can just knock down threes and or grab offensive rebounds on the inside. Like they've got these energy players. He's one of them. Taurean Prince is one of them. Jaden McDaniels is kind of an energy player, just like a do other things guy. Jaylen Nowell. Kyle Anderson is a little bit of an energy player, although he's nicknamed Slow-Mo for a reason. He just brings this like totally different vibe. He's a good complementary player. But they've got these guys that understand, all right, I'm going to get about 12 to 15 minutes tonight. I know what I'm not going to just get out of my lane for those 12 to 15 minutes. And Naz Reid, when he's in the right matchups, can be a huge asset. Totally agree. All right, back to Declan here.
All right, my next statement. It's be better in the third quarter. So far this season, the Wolves are minus 22 in the third. I will say yesterday, towards the end of it, they were able to kind of make it a little bit better, and their bench came in and gave them some solid minutes towards the end. But there was one point where it was -9, basically. The Thunder came back out yesterday and were able to kind of control things for a little bit out of the half. But so far, out of the halftime this season, the Wolves are minus 22 in the third quarter. The home crowd was booing the Timberwolves at Target Center on opening night, basically, when the Thunder just walked their way back into the game on Wednesday at Target Center. But so far, they need to figure out ways, in my opinion, to be better in the third. Obviously, their starters are going to be out there to start the game, and it was good on the bench yesterday to kind of ice the things away, and you didn't have to play Cat, you didn't have to play a bunch of your stars and D'Lo in the fourth, but minus 22 in the third quarter, especially to slappies like OKC and Utah for that matter. If you do that to a team like we saw against Memphis in the playoffs, or you do that to a team like even Milwaukee you're going to see here, Phoenix will be here a few times as well, you cannot allow those teams to go on runs because you'll be buried at that point. So be better in the third quarter.
I don't know if you guys heard this on Bally's last night, but Micah Nori is the assistant coach that often gets interviewed coming out of halftime because he's hilarious and has a personality. He does little like film breakdowns and stuff. And so I think it was Katie who was doing the halftime interview. Said, hey, we're here with Micah Nori. What needs to happen in the third, whatever, blah, 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 right? And he said, I don't have the exact quote, but he referred to them as being narcoleptic in the third quarter all too often.
Yeah?
Narcoleptic. Just falling asleep. I feel like this has been a problem. Third quarter narcolepsy has been a problem for 15 years for the Timberwolves. This was a problem for the Kevin Love, Rubio, Pekovic teams. It was a problem oftentimes early in the Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns era, and now it is a problem so far this season. And so, Declan, you said they're a minus 22, and I think at one point they were like a minus 12 just in the middle of the third quarter yesterday. So it could easily, if they didn't come back, it could easily be like minus 35 or something in the first three games. So the Vikings and the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
narcoleptic
weird.
third quarter teams, man. Super weird.
That is weird.
You know what's not weird? Our friends at Federated and the way that they help businesses.
True.
And they've been doing it for over 100 years. They've been partners with the Timberwolves for a long time as well. And they're all about risk management. They're all about rim protection, really. Like they're just there defending and helping maximize your business through risk management tools and resources. Find a full list of industries Federated works closely with and see if your business matches up at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right.